Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio Show. I'm Derek Asklar. Mr. Craig Talley's already on the line. We'll be hosting this show tonight. Doing this from out in my office, and well, I just realized I gotta oil up the doggone chair because it squeaks like crazy. So if you hear that, that's what's going on. I had to do some maintenance, Craig, already today. But yeah, I mean, it's been a kind of an interesting, busy week for us in general. Uh, Running around doing this and that. I've been able to get out detecting a little bit, but mostly what I've been doing is working with watching a lot of these videos on these detectors. Um, and the title of the show is Hear the Beep, and it's kind of continuing on where we kind of left off last Thursday. With the sounds that these machines are making, and the more videos I watch, and maybe some of you have also notice this on these, I'd say in the machines that have come out in the last, I don't know, Craig, what did you say about the last year or so? Um, at least I've been noticing it too. But there is, on these digital machines and analog machines, both, usually the analog had more nuance to the sounds on the target. There was nuances in sound of the targets. Uh, and giveaways on what items are, without you looking at a VDI or anything like that, in the way that the tone is, the beep. And there's definitely, on these newer digital machines, it seems like they have somehow incorporated, whether knowingly or not, the imperfections in the target sounds on digital machines too, and I've noticed this on several of the latest models. It may be questioned, and I think the reason I noticed it so much is because we deal with that on the Bliss tool. It's an analog machine, and there's nuances in it, and I guess maybe it caught my ear, so to speak, even over the video, which surprised me quite a bit on a machine that well, three machines that I really don't know very well. I haven't used these some of these machines. But it was very noticeable. And, I was thinking about something else along this line, too. One of the most difficult things for me is when you go from brand A metal detector to brand B, um, there is quite a bit of a difference between the actual sound of, or the style of the beep. Well, we all know Minelab sounds different than White, sounds different than Fisher. You know what I mean, Craig, the way that the tone sounds, anyways, and that
Yeah,
makes it more difficult for me especially, to understand what I'm hearing, to incorporate the nuance factor in the signal sound. But there's definitely especially, I noticed that on the Equinox, and this was because of one of Sam and Evan's video on the test garden. I was noticing, a lot of nuances in not only that machine, but also the T2 seemed. There's a couple points in there. Now, of course, they were outside. There's wind. There's what have you. But it was definitely noticeable to me. I don't know if they heard it, or they probably weren't even paying attention to it because they had just gotten the machine and dug the holes and did the testing and stuff. But I found myself rewinding the video, and it wasn't the Equinox wasn't the only detector, and I just thought it was kind of important to point that out because at the end of the day, if you're getting sound is always, to me, always better. It's a lot more informative uh, in the way that we're hearing the stuff, the imperfections of the signal. You have your DIGME signals that, when you go over something that's really good, like an old coin, like a 50-cent piece, whatever, it locks on there and it's solid, repeatable, modulated right, and everything. But then you have something that, we'll use an example like a bottle cap. And, most of us know that most detectors, a bottle cap and a quarter, sometimes read up close to the same range, or uh, on the VDI numbers, anyways. They may be a little bit jumpier, but we're using, and I've seen some of the guys do it already, be able to say, oh, wait a minute, this is probably going to be a bottle cap, only because they know the way that the VDI numbers jump and stuff, but I think it's also the way that it sounds. I noticed on, I'm not going to go through all these different brands because the point I want to make is pretty much all these newer machines do this, and I don't know if they've changed something in the filters, maybe, or maybe it's something that it just happened. I mean, they didn't plan for this, but I'm definitely noticing because like you go over a quarter with our machine, and it definitely you definitely catch a definite click or a pop after the signal in one direction. You go over it one way, and it sounds nice. You come back on it like you're just regular swinging, you'll definitely have a spit or a crackle at the end of the signal. It's a dead giveaway that this is probably going to be iron. When you speed up the coil over it, it lets go. For me, for us with the Bliss tool. But these other machines are doing kind of the same thing. I noticed this on a particular machine over big iron. Big piece of iron towards the top of the ground, like within about 2 or 3 inches of the ground. And the guy raised the coil. I think he was getting an overload, but he raised the coil up about, it seemed like a foot, and went over it, and it did the same doggone thing over and over again. Where it come across it, it was nice, and when it came back, it definitely threw a spit at the end of the signal, and it was a digital machine. He didn't notice it. He guessed because of the size of it, it was going to be iron, and it was. But the sound factor can really help you, and this is going to happen as you get used to your detector more and more. If you're really listening to this, you almost can call it on a VDI number that's jumping quite a bit. It sometimes the sound will help you more than the VDI. I mean, a lot of us don't even use VDIs except for initial going over. We're hunting by sound on a lot of the deeper targets and stuff. And that was another thing, Craig, too. It seems like these machines have more of a whisper factor in the way that the signals, as like our machine, when you get an extremely deep target, it's a repeatable signal, but it's very quiet. It's a whisper, but you can definitely hear it. These machines are kind of doing the same thing, but they're doing it a little bit different way, only because it's so pronounced as the target, especially on an air test. Some of the air test videos, you can hear this. It locks on, it's louder, it's clear, it's modulated. And when they use like a piece of iron or something, obviously they have discrimination on, but as they get closer to the coil with a bigger piece of iron, it wants to sound off sometimes. And sometimes it'll sound really good, but when they swing it back and forth, you catch it on the reverse side. And I wanted to put that out there because I don't know if we really got into that part of it. Especially this is more for the experienced hunters out there. I mean, if you're brand new to metal detecting, it's something you can listen for, be more vigilant on, or whatever on the signals themselves. But the veteran hunters out here, a lot of these guys on chat right now, like Paul and Bill, they know this already, and they're figuring it. They've been figuring it out for years that they know sound was sometimes better than VDI. So there's a lot of times you'll get a good signal, but your VDI won't even show up, or it'll be weird. You know what I mean, Craig? Especially the day as you're listening for tones. So, be aware of that and learn your machine as you spend more time with it. I think you automatically pick this up and don't realize it right away that you're actually hunting by sound because you're wanting that older, deeper stuff. And it's not going to be on targets that are 2 inches in the ground. This is going to be significantly deeper on some of this, but I'm definitely going to try to narrow these down. I may even purchase a couple of these machines just to do this, to test this, to show this on video of actually getting a more sensitive microphone for my my camcorder, my action cam. I want to see if I can isolate a little bit better how a nuance sounds, or what the difference is between the tone, the differences in the tone on different targets. So that's my plan to do anyways, and hopefully it helps some of you all out. And they deal with this, I'm sure, on pulse machines too. I'm just not familiar with a pulse machine enough to make that distinction. I mean, I'm sure Denny might, or whoever that uses like GPXs and TDIs. I know that that's a factor in the TDI also because Alex Billies, he had explained that to me, what he's trying to listen for, and he finally figured it out at the one hunt we were at. I got it. I understand what the guy was telling me now. And, he actually heard it and remembered it. And he had a really good day that day because he was picking that particular nuance when it went off and knew it was a dig me signal and just went for it. And he was, he got like, I don't know how many bullets and buttons. He got a half dime buttons. I mean, he was doing really good at the hunt. So, but he had finally figured it out. I think, Craig, you figured this out on your own, but you have a lot of experience with machines too. You've had 50 or whatever machines. So you said, you mentioned last show, you were talking about the Explorer. I think it was the Explorer,
Yeah.
right? And how you had that figured out. I mean, are you still noticing this on okay, we're just going to throw it out like Deus or, like you had an E-Track, I think it was. Were you noticing these same things? I know like Josh Kimmel was noticing it with the E-Track, and he had it figured out pretty good. But I don't hear.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I especially like a silver quarter, I could tell every time. Sometimes it wouldn't be a silver quarter; it'd be like a 2 real.
Right.
But, it's silver to me on the Explorer. I just, when I went over it, I thought, man, that's got to be silver. I could just call it a lot of times, and people couldn't believe it because,
right.
And I'd say that's a silver coin.
Mm-hmm.
I could do it on some analog machines. There were some Tesoros I could do the silver, but then there was some that I couldn't. They didn't have any nuances at all.
Right.
I've noticed that on some machines, but I think the E-Track, probably has the nuances. Probably the CTX.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard anybody really talk about the CTX and that aspect of it. I would assume it does.
They're looking at the numbers and stuff, but
right.
when I used the Explorer, I was using the XY screen instead of the numbers,
mm-hmm.
and most of the time I didn't even look at them.
Right.
I had a cover over top of the meter, waterproof cover and everything, and it was so dirty you could hardly even see the screen.
You had to do it myself. Well, this also depends on your settings and stuff. But Paul brought up a good point. His hearing is shot, too many guns and cannon noises, and no hearing protection. And Paul, I'm in the same boat as you are, brother. I mean, between the shotguns, high-powered rifles, and 44 Magnums and stuff. And back in the 80s. When I was always at the gun range and stuff like that, I was a big gun freak. Pauline and I both were at that age, anyways, and on up, into adulthood. But you didn't think about. I guess you didn't think about hearing protection or whatever. It wasn't like as common. But after you got done, at the shotgun range, you couldn't even hear out of one ear, and that didn't do me any good. So this does, play a factor, a big factor, really, in individual hearing. Whether you can hear you're losing tones. You've lost tones over the years as far as the tones you can hear. So yeah, it would definitely play a factor in that, and it does me too. I think I've just trained my ears so much with the Bliss tool that I'm noticing that it is there on these other machines. If you can listen for it and catch any part of it, it's something that sticks in your brain, or you can make it stick in your brain so that when you hear it the next time, you can kind of incorporate it better. I don't even know how to put that any better than that, guys. This is kind of a deep topic, but I hear
like when I hear something brass, there's a noticeable with all the Bliss tools. I knew it every time when it went over
mm-hmm.
brass.
Right.
It might be a shotgun shell, it might be a button,
mm-hmm.
It might be something else brass, but. I remember, one of the funniest ones was I had, I think I had the V5, and my friend McAdams had E-Track, and he got an overload signal. Said, "Oh, there's a big piece of iron here," and I'd been all over this whole area, and I said, "Big piece of iron there?" And I thought, I would have dug it up probably because it was in the Civil War era, area.
Right.
So I went over it with the with the Bliss, and I said, "Nah, that's something brass."
Right.
And he goes, "Oh no, it's iron. That's my machine's overloading."
Yeah.
And so I dug down, and it was this giant nut that was solid brass. You know, it was huge. Probably weighed,
Right.
I don't know, half a pound at most.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was off something off, you know, one of the it's up there near where those railroad tracks where I took you that time. But you know, that's, you know, it's funny. What if you know, went over a big stash of coins that were maybe 8 inches deep in the ground? Would a lot of machines just overload on that?
Well,
Machines.
Brandon was talking about that before, about a roll of silver quarter, not regular quarters, but silver quarters. How some machines don't know what to do with that, other ones do. And they did that test, you know, with the Equinox and stuff. And I know the Bliss tool doesn't have a problem with that test at all. But it, you know, just bangs. You know, it's looking. I think it's looking more at the whole target, the whole the whole area. The you know, instead of 1 quarter, you know, 10. It doesn't matter. It's still picking it up. The Equinox seems to do the same. There's several of them that do it. I think the Deus would probably do it too. I'm not positive on that. You mentioned overload signals, Craig. You know, the guy. Oh, it's overloading. It's iron. Guys, it's overload does not mean automatically iron. That means a shallow target, bigger, but not necessarily bigger either, because like, and I'm just using it as an example. I'm not beating up the machine, but like the Macro Racer, not the newest one, but the one before that. You could put a dime on the ground and swing like a half an inch over it, like a normal swing, and it would overload on it. At least mine would. And I hated that because I want to, and I know from experience that it doesn't necessarily mean iron. It could be anything big, a can, the White's machine, you know, the Spectre V3. I spent 3.5 years with that and worked with it. I mean, it could be a big piece of iron. It could be a can. It could be anything, any kind of ferrous or non-ferrous material is big. Or usually it had to be bigger. With some of these not newer machines, but some of these other machines, it doesn't even have to be that big of size. It could be, like I said, the Macro Racer, a quarter or dime. If it's laying on top of the ground, just barely under the surface, your machine will, at least mine overloaded. And it annoyed me because I had to, you know, the one way to figure that out is raise the coil off the ground and still scan it. And it definitely, like I saw the Equinox goes right into the iron range, and so does the Deus, and all those. They seem to do it, but there's some machines that, I don't know, maybe the sensitivity of the machine or the capabilities of the machine hold it back a little bit, maybe. I don't know, Craig. But yeah, there's definitely, don't just assume it's big iron. Okay, you're going to miss something good. It could be anything.
I had one of those Fisher CV6s, and the thing kept falling apart on me, and I had, you know, the calibration kept going off on it, but it was a fairly deep machine, but it had this overload signal on it that made it sound like a siren or something. You know, it was so annoying. So I was playing around with it one day, and I had a U.S. belt buckle on the ground. That thing was making a siren sound on it.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God. You know, what if you just walk along, you go over a U.S. belt buckle with this thing, and it tells you it's an overload signal, and you just keep on going.
Yeah, you don't do that. Guys, I know it's a pain in the butt. Raise the coil off the ground a foot. If it's that big of a target, it's going to give you a signal. You just got to get the coil away from it a little bit.
Yeah, that's the trick is raise the coil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to investigate those, and don't. You know, I've told the story last show. You know, the guy goes over a target and comes back to it because he hadn't found anything else, and it turned out to be a jar inside of a cast iron pan full of coins. It's just a huge signal, but there was something in it. It made him come back to it. He said, "Oh, maybe it's just a piece of iron or a piece of sheeting or something like that. You know, roof sheeting or something." But you got to figure out what it is, and usually it's pretty easy. If it's something, you know, like an axe head or something, that's kind of cool to find. It's a relic, but it may just be I don't know. I found alternators and starters and stuff like that, just, you know, laying in the middle of a field, buried under the ground. But I've also found axe heads and wagon parts and plow blades, and that's all kind of relics anyways. And I don't mind getting them out of there anyways, out of the field so the tire, the tractor doesn't rip up a tire on them or whatever. You're helping out the farmer, but it's kind of, neat to find some of this stuff because the older stuff does have dates on it, makers on it, and stuff like that. So you might come up with a really cool, relic from the past, from the Civil War, from whatever. Not to mention all the artillery rounds and the cannonballs and everything else. I mean, they're going to throw off the same kind of big, overload signal if they're shallow. And there's, we've heard stories about people that would, back in the day, these doggone cannonballs are in the way. They throw them over by the fence line or whatever, throw them out of the way by a tree so they can actually get them out of the field. Oh, so wouldn't it be nice if they've been laying there? They might, they've sort of sunk in the ground about, at least 4 or 5 inches anyways. And you go over this and think it's just a chunk of metal and walk on. So how many targets are you missing? So this is being thorough, methodical, even a little adventurous. Dig those targets, or at least try to see what they are. I'm not telling you to dig 3.5 foot down in the ground, because I know what that's like. You dig 2 or 3 holes, and the fourth one, you have to dig down 2.5 foot, 3 foot. You're whooped by the end of that. So, matter of fact, I think I saw a show with or a video with digging with sevens. It was Tennessee Jeff, and he got this signal and he started digging. And pretty soon he had it had to have been 3 foot hole, about 3 foot across. Took him 2 times out to dig it, and it turned out he found a button and, oh shoot, I can't remember what he found. He found some cool stuff. I saw Gunner up in Minnesota. He dug a Model T wrench at, God, Craig, how deep was that? 4 foot down, 3 foot anyways.
Oh my God,
yeah, it was a huge. I mean, he dug and he wasn't all metal when he got that, but he did it with a V3, and it was right where the detector told him, right in the center of that hole, and it took him 2 times out. He just got tired, and he said, I'm going to come back and dig this tomorrow. And he did. And it turned out to be a Model T wrench, I think it was, which is kind of cool in a way. I don't know if I would have dug it, but, that's just, I don't know, being thorough, I guess. It kills you when you walk over a target. When you pass on a target, it usually comes back to haunt you. That you're going to think the next day, God, I should have dug that target. There was something about that target I liked, or I heard in it, or I saw in the VDI. It can haunt you. So if you have an inkling at all, just use your gut and dig it, and just dig it out, see what it is. That way you put your mind at rest on that part of it. And this is for everybody really, because, even the new people to the hobby, they may not know. For you new people in the hobby too, are thinking about getting into it. I had a lady, and she may be listening tonight. She actually messaged me, and I've been, sorry I didn't go into more detail with you. It's more or less because I've been so doggone busy today. Usually I try to be a lot more thorough. She was asking me, she wants to get into the metal detecting hobby. She didn't know how to pick out a metal detector. And I answered her back the first time, pretty much the way I tell everybody. I said, first buy yourself a metal detector. It really doesn't matter so much what kind it is. It could be, I would suggest, like a low range to a mid-range detector, depending on what you can afford, to see if you like the hobby enough, or whatever, you enjoy the hobby, whatever you find it's what you would like to try to do. You don't want to buy a $1,000 metal detector if you don't know, because you're going to spend $1,000, use it one time and say, oh, I hate this. And, and then you don't use it again, and you've wasted money, or you may resell it, whatever. If you want to do something, to get to that part, you can just buy a regular old metal detector, like something $200, $300, $400, whatever, and use it. If you like it and you think you want to do this more, that's the time you decide, okay, now I need to get serious. And I told her, I said, when you get to that point, you need to figure out what kind of hunting you want to do, whether it's relic hunting, coin shooting, gold prospecting, beach hunting, water hunting. There's a lot of different categories in metal detecting. that you can, you might live right on the beach, so you might want to get a detector that can go under the water or get wet and not tear up, like an AT Pro or a Excalibur or a CTX 3030 or whatever. There's a lot of different waterproof ones. There's a lot of gold prospecting detectors. There's relic hunting machines, so you can find out what area you want to be in or do, or you might want to be in multiple areas. You want to be a coin shooter and relic hunter or whatever. So you have to buy a machine that's comparable, that's going to help you out the most in finding stuff, finding the little treasures beneath your feet, so to speak. So, that's when you make your decision. And when you're doing that, and this is where she was asking me, she's a small woman, and did I think that a kid's metal detector, what did I think of that? And I have to say, in that aspect of it, that it really just depends on what detector you're talking about in particular, because some of these detectors, these kids, they're not, they're actually a kids detector. They're just basically a start-off machine. You're not going to get maybe the kind of depth you want. I guess you could start out with it, but it's not. You understand that you're not going to have the potential of a $500, $600, $700, $800 machine, or even on up. They usually get better as you get into the $500 to $600 range, up to what you say about $2,000 range, or whatever CTX is. There's a big spaces in between what the potential is, what the performance is of these machines. So yes, you can get a smaller machine, a lighter machine, but they do make machines like the Deus, the Equinox, even the AT Pro, depending on which size coil you have. Of course, the Ace 250, Ace 350. I mean, I'm just throwing out, it sounds like a bunch of numbers to you. The best thing to do, I would say, is number one, get onto some kind of forum or Facebook page. Ask, there's several of them out there. Ohio Relic Hunter has his Facebook page. Whatever. Don't Tread on Me, Backyard Diggers. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to go through Facebook pages, but you can get on these through Facebook. Ask these guys and gals. And there's a lot of ladies at Metal Detect too. It's becoming really big. There's kids at Metal Detect. If Maddie, because Maddie was using a CTX, and he's I think he's 10, Craig? I don't know. He's a younger guy. But he's manhandling this 5.5 pound machine, but he can do it. You probably could do the same thing. I know you don't want to rip your arm off.
He has an Equinox now. So
yeah. Now he can handle it. But she's smaller too, and a lot of these detectors can be squished or collapsed down farther. Like the Go Find, that's probably not the lowest. I wouldn't go any. Like the Bounty Hunters are okay, the 505s and stuff.
They just came out with new Go Find.
Oh, they did. Oh, I haven't even seen a video on that yet. But so you needed to figure out what area of metal detecting you want to be involved with, and you need to talk to some people. Watch YouTube videos. Don't take them all to heart, because some of these people are learning the machines, and they may be new to it, or they have a certain hunting style, or they're hunting in a different part of the country. Try to locate somebody on YouTube or something that's hunting like in the state of Ohio or in the state of Florida, depending on where you're at, so you know what they're using and what it seems to work for them, and then make an educated decision on it. And feel free to ask any of these guys on here, or guys and gals. I say guys, but I mean guys and gals and whoever that is really into the hobby are going to help you. They're going to at least point you in the right direction. They may only be able to point you in the direction of the detector that they use. That's not a bad thing. I mean, there's a lot of them in each category, and believe me, you'll see crossover when you look this up on YouTube. If it shows an AT Pro, it's probably going to show the AT Max, the AT Gold. It's going to show the Equinox. Because all these detectors are kind of in the same price range, and they have really good performance. I mean, I think the AT Pro it's a little bit coil side heavy, but you can adjust that detector shaft and depending what size coil you have, it's not going to uh, it's not going to be a bother to you too much. I don't think. I mean, it's if you get into like I'll say CTX only because I know it's a heavy machine. It is pretty well balanced, but it's still heavy. Yeah, if you're a smaller person, it may be harder to swing that for 3 hours. Or if you buy an ATX, it's a pulse induction machine, and it's rather heavy. You might have to get a what I call a swing thing. It's actually a strap that goes, I think it's around your shoulder and around the belt loop. It's kind of like a bungee cord in a way, or something to take the pressure off of your arm. So it's a helpful way of being able to handle a machine that's like either rear heavy or nose heavy or just plain heavy. Because you get some of these machines, and especially the older ones, Craig, they were like a shoebox with batteries. I mean, like the old whites, they were prehistoric. I wouldn't suggest buying one of those. I guess you could, just to see if you like metal detecting, but it's definitely not something you're going to use because technology has come so far. You would probably want to get something more that was made in the last, at least in the last 10 years, anyways. There's a lot of good machines. There's a lot of pluses and minuses to them. But people give you the best information. So I hope that information helped you out. And I guess if you have more questions, you can call in, put it on chat, or just message me again. It gets real hard to answer everybody's question. I'm by no means, I know my metal detectors. I know how they should perform and everything, but I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people out here that definitely will help you out. They're real good people in this hobby. Generally, I don't know, Craig, I'd say 95% of the people out there are great. You have a few idiots, but most of the time we're all like-minded and we all love the hobby. So, feel free to ask anybody. I'm sure they'll answer you, or contact me back. So, I don't know. I got off on that tangent, but it just was sticking in my mind. She actually messaged me, and I just got it like 10 minutes before the show, and I felt bad I didn't answer her back right away. But she knew about the radio show, so that's good. I actually put the show up on Artifact Addiction. It's more of a arrowhead hunting and artifact hunting site. And somebody said, well, I thought that's a metal detector. That doesn't really belong on our site. And I messaged back right away. I was just putting it on there because we've been talking about arrowhead hunting and stuff like that. It comes up during our shows. And I thought maybe some of your, listeners, watchers, whatever, would like to, might want to check it out. And I said, a lot of the radio shows are like that. We'll post this stuff up and try to get more people involved. They might find some interesting stuff. And the guy messaged me right back and says, hey, I was just kidding. You put it up whatever you want to. So I felt pretty good about that because I never want, you don't want to upset the different groups. But a lot of these hobbies kind of overlap into each other. And a lot of us enjoy all these hobbies or are trying to get into the hobbies. And I've been doing
I like
that
all
recently.
kinds of treasure.
Oh, yeah, any kind of treasure.
Discriminating.
Right? Yeah, it's to have fun. It's the adventure. It's the quest to adventure, kind of thing. It's just, it's fun. And there's treasure everywhere, man. There's more stuff in the ground than we'll ever find, I think. I mean, as detectors get more and more powerful, and really as new areas open up, the more people that get into the hobby, the better, because they may have permissions some places. They bring, if they bring good mojo to the hobby, people start, letting us on more permissions. And we can hunt, you're hunting with these people. If they're new, you're teaching them something, and you're probably going to learn something from them too. It's amazing. I can even watch videos about even how to swing a metal detector. And the scary thing was, Craig, I was looking at these videos, these certain ones, and I'm not going to even give the name. It's not really that important, but the footage they put on there of people metal detecting, it was like, oh my God, the coil's 8 inches above the ground, literally on this one, and he was all over the place. And I'm like, and people watch these videos as a newcomer, and they think that's the way it's done, or they assume because they see it, this guy doing it, that's the way it's done. So, that's why I said don't lock on to a particular video and say it's golden all the time. I mean, if you're watching, okay, I'll say this. If you're watching the Hoover Boys, they're doing it right. If you're watching, I don't know, Howard Hewitt or Stealth Diggers or whatever. They're going to, if you watch the way they detect, they're doing it right. You know, I've never seen them where they're like crazy swinging or anything like that. They're not like that. So, you know, understand that who you're watching. If you're seeing something that looks hokey to you, just watch another video about that metal detector. And, you know, the person might have had an off day or whatever. You know, we're all at different levels of experience. So don't lock it into stone until you know that's what you're supposed to do. That's going to make you a better hunter. It's going to help you out find more stuff. And you're not going to find treasure every time you go out there. It's just, I mean, I wish it would. I wish it happened for me. I go out a lot of times and I find a bunch of stuff, but nothing worth nothing. But I still have fun doing it, or I wouldn't go out the next time. I mean, you're gonna have your days where you're gonna dig all good targets. You're gonna be happy, you know, just so happy. But it doesn't happen all the time. Don't set your standards so high that you get discouraged, because you're in this to have fun and adventure and to find, you know, cool stuff, you know, treasure. And so you don't let yourself down, and understand that you're going to have bad days. Nothing annoys me more than when somebody's like, you know, doing showing a metal how great it is, and all they show is, you know, oh my God, look what I dug, and they dug this big old silver dollar or something like that. That doesn't happen every day. I mean, I haven't dug a silver dollar in 17 years. I've dug the large cent, or not a large cent, I mean like Canadian stuff and everything else, but I've never got my coil over one. Craig has done it. Several of the other guys have done it. It just, you can't find something that you don't get your coil over. So don't get discouraged and say, well, this guy went out with the brand A, and oh my God, he dug a gold coin, so this machine's going to be awesome. Because I think that's what some of these people perceive when they're not from the hobby. They perceive it that way. And you're kind of, I don't know, blowing smoke in a way. You know, if you're legitimately hunting and finding, that's cool. But there's several of them that was like, dude, really? I could see the dig marks where you buried it, you know, where the plug was originally, and then you're popping it out. It's like, come on now, at least use some film editing or something, you know, make it a little bit believable. But, you know, everybody makes their videos different. Well, shoot, I'm knocking stuff off the table and everything else. Anyway, you know, everybody makes videos the way they want to, and we wouldn't expect everybody to make them the same way, because it'd be kind of boring anyway. So, you know, just credibility. You know, if you think it's not credible, watch another video, or watch one of their videos, a different one. And maybe they just had an off day or whatever. Who knows? But don't get discouraged, in other words. So, boy, that was a long, drawn-out explanation, Craig, and I'm sorry. I just, I got that feeling when I was watching those couple videos, and I wanted to say something about that, too. On the majority, most of the videos on there are good. I mean, you just have a few, and it seems like I always come across them somehow. But then again, I'll spend 2 hours going through videos because there's so many of them. YouTube is, there's so many videos every day. If you ever just look up a metal detecting, I don't even know how many are on YouTube. Is there a way to figure that out, Craig? I bet you there's got to be 1 million videos on that thing for metal detecting, because it's just every genre you can think of on there. So you could definitely, you wouldn't need to watch TV for a couple months anyways. You can go through just metal detecting videos in 24 hours a day.
I've watched pretty many.
I burned myself out on them 2 days, or what was it? Yeah, it was Friday. I mean, I was actually down at my mom's house helping her out, and in the afternoon I was sitting there going through some videos, and I'm like, I got up and walked away from the computer, and she goes, "What's wrong? I thought you were going to do some research." And I said, "Yeah, I did research for 2 hours, and I'm done." Because you burn yourself out on it, you start getting confused on what videos you watch and which ones you didn't. I was going to send Craig a couple of them, and now I can't even find them. It drives me crazy when I see something really cool or whatever, and I want to send it on to you guys, and I try to do it once in a while. And I'll forget what video it is, and I didn't save it right or whatever. It's definitely habit forming. This hobby is flat out habit forming. It's addictive. It's a good kind of addiction. And, I don't know. It just, it's always interested me from the time I was little. I never got into it until I was older, but it's pretty much finding treasure, and treasure doesn't have to be gold. It can be any kind of relic or whatever you're after. It just it holds that interest for me. And Craig, obviously, and, a lot of you guys on here, Barbara and Bob and, Bill, everybody on here, that's why they're, in the hobby so much. I mean, and I did hear some news too, Craig. I don't know if you heard it or not. Did you hear about Evan and Sam?
Oh yeah, a couple weeks
They're
ago.
gonna get married. It's gonna be a metal detecting wedding, or something like that. I saw it. And I was just so happy for those two. So congratulations to both of you. And I probably won't be able to make it up to Ohio, though I wish I could. Things are kind of really, really busy for Craig and I right now. We got some stuff happening. It's all positive. It's going to involve several other people. And, I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't have I know it's going to happen. I just don't have all the details. But, for our friends on Spreaker, Hardcore Metal Tech, I wanted you guys to know that there is going to be some changes in the next month or two. And for us, it's very positive. So, just stop the rumor mill from happening. You know how that goes, Craig. So, we'll keep you guys informed. It's, to me, I know Craig too. It's pretty exciting, and it really several topics. So there was actually there's something else going on too that I've told a couple people about. This is something totally different. So if I talk to you by phone, what I'm, you know that there's something else going on too, and it's even better. So I'll keep you guys informed, and just so you know, because hey, our friends needed to know. So. It's killing me, Craig, not to say something to somebody. You know that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, Craig, we'll kind of get on. We talked about pretty much what your detector's telling you. Understand too that as you make discrimination adjustments, I would say frequency adjustments, if you're going individual frequencies, that's going to play a lot on what your detector's telling you. Don't ignore. I mean, I know you guys listen to the beep, obviously, but are you really listening to it? I mean, with our detector, this thing, it almost talks to you in a way. If you know what you're listening for, that's why it takes a few times out with it to start getting your mind wrapped around it. And Craig always talks about, and I do too, about the brass and the copper, how you can definitely tell when you're over that. And it's kind of neat in a way, but the other items like silver and lead, and they do have a nuance. It's just really hard for me to pick them out. Craig has a better ear for it than I do. I've done too much damage to my hearing. Apparently, Craig is like.
I think the thing with me is I dig more Civil War stuff and colonial stuff. So I'm not finding silver that often. To really get my ear down on the nuance, but. With the brass, it was really noticeable, and it almost as noticeable with the copper.
Yeah.
But I don't know. A lot of times too, if the signal is really deep, it kind of loses the nuances. Some of it.
Right. You get to start.
You'll still get a repeatable signal, but it's soft. And you kind of lose some nuances, when it gets, a signal like that.
Right.
But when it's a moderate signal, you usually can hear the nuances pretty good in it.
Yeah, it's with the Bliss Tool too, and this is the only machine that really has a silencer per se. The kind I don't know how to put this. There's some that do have a silencer type of an adjustment on them. With our particular machine,
the Deus has some.
Yeah,
like that.
With ours, you're using threshold is actually the sensitivity, but when you use the silencer in conjunction with the frequency, with the threshold, it actually controls the eruption of sound, the amplification of the sound in a way. It amplifies it. Or not like the gain. I should say oh God, that's where I'm at a loss. I have to come up with new words. I mean, to describe, so you can understand. I just don't know the word for it. But it's the eruption of the sound is definitely different as you raise the silencer up on our machine. That's over iron. So non-ferrous items are it's going to let you hear better. It's going to let you hear the nuance better. Craig, I know you've noticed this because you've been working with the silencer a lot too. Instead of keeping it on 0, moving it up to 2 or 3, and even on a saltwater beach, I turn that thing up to 6, 7, or 8. And I still don't lose depth because I'm running the silencer or the threshold up higher. So they work together. And I'm not sure if the Deus does that or not. Craig, you'd have to explain that better than me. I don't know if you notice a difference in the Deus.
I really haven't used the silencer much. I played around with it, I don't know, when I first got it, but after that, I really didn't use it.
Yeah, traditionally,
and most of the time, I don't use it on the Bliss. I try to just lower the sensitivity.
You need to start doing it, buddy.
I've dug wheat pennies at 9 and 10 inches with the sensitivity at like 2.
Right.
So
and I think
that's still pretty good depth.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just the eruption, the way that the sound, the tone comes across. With our machine, it's a single tone, but in that tone, it leaves a lot of options for nuance, and I think that's one thing that's primarily different with our machine in the way that we can control some of this stuff. Traditionally the silencer was more as a fine tuning for EMI, is the way that I originally read it.
The way I use it.
Right, but then you have your frequency knob, which is like a frequency offset or whatever. You can actually move frequencies 600 hertz one direction or the other. But the silencer was supposed to be involved in that as a fine tune, but it's also using it. And I don't think I made a video on this when I was over in Bulgaria. There is definitely a correlation between the nuances and the way you use a silencer. It's a pretty in-depth explanation. I only kind of portray or tell people what, Craig, we tell them about 50% of what this machine will really do, because it's so much information. It's just like, you hear so much that a machine it does this, and this. It sounds too good to be true. It usually is. Well, now that's why we hold back, because I can make this machine, sing a song to you, and you could do the same thing. It's not rocket science. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I am thorough, and I am methodical in the way that I think about these machines. And it's just not the Bliss tool. I was the same way about the White Spectra V3. I've been, the same way with the Beach Hunter ID. There's ways of adjusting these machines. It gets confusing at first, but once you do it, you understand how you could do other things to work these knobs and stuff in to make them work together better. And again, I'm getting kind of deep, and if you new people out there, it may be way over your head. I hope that a lot of you guys that are in the that are obviously been in the hobby for a while understand what I'm talking about. Don't sell your detector short all the time. Don't, because a lot of the operation of a metal detector, you can have the best metal detector that they make, the most expensive and the best. But if you're not working it right, or you're not, you can't expect a metal detector to find you something if you have it all set up wrong. It's about, I would say, 70% the operator as far as performance in the field. If you don't have it set up right, it's not going to work right for you. If you have it set up right and there's adjustments you can make to make it better, to make it work better, and you do that, then you're progressing with that machine. You're making that machine do more than what you expected it to do. And I've seen guys work miracles with some of these machines that, I'll be quite honest with you, I maybe never spent any time with them, but I don't think I could make that machine do that. They have the key, or they figured it out. And Craig, guys like that take, and incomparable metal detectors of that kind, or that adjustment, performance, whatever, they're in the same range. Why is one of them standing out above the rest? It may be as simple as how that person is setting up their machine. So, always look for, you want to make your hunting trip the best you can. whatever. You want to be as successful as you can while you're metal detecting. You have fun regardless, but I mean, that's what you're striving for, to be better with that machine or with other machines too. So, definitely don't just call it quits with a machine. I worked with the Spectra V3 from White's there for 3.5 years, and I was just tweaking. I got that, I had it figured out. I knew exactly what I had to do with the machine, how to squeeze as much power that I could in the actual detecting and not worrying about the bells and whistles. The different sounds. I pretty much had it set up where, heck, maybe it had 3 tones or 2 tones. That's it. And iron sound was turned off, so I was essentially running with very low discrimination, if anything. But I just wasn't hearing the garbage at all. There's a danger in that too, because some of the stuff, as it gets deeper, will read up in a negative range on a metal detector, especially on the White Spectra. You could have coins that are deeper, a silver quarter at 12 inches will read in the negative range. So you got to be careful. You got to understand what you're listening to too, because if it was a weaker signal, that should have been a clue to me to dig it anyways. And back then I hadn't learned that until like the second year, because I'd done enough investigating, and with the Spectra V3 is an extremely thorough machine as far as adjustments. If you don't mind learning, it's a great machine to learn on, Craig, really, because it involves all these different, recovery, delay, and correlate, and offsets, and it gives you, if you can learn that, what those knobs are for and how they work, it's going to help you out on every other metal detector you ever buy, I think, because you understand where it's coming from, so you can incorporate it to another machine. At least that's what I have found. And Craig, I'm sure you've had machines like that too, where it really sets you up for the next one. Even a Nautilus. I mean, I've never used a Nautilus. Craig has, but you used to tune the coil, right? Ground balance and tune the coil to the machine.
You balance it. Yeah, you balance the coil first. Mm-hmm. It's got 2 different knobs, and I remember over the years that they used to, when I first started, a lot of machines for automatic ground balance, but then there was the 10-turn ground balance, and a lot of people just hearing about having to manually ground balance, they wouldn't want to buy the machine.
Right.
And actually, I think you actually can tune the machine better that way myself. But
right.
But with the Nautilus, you'd have to balance the coil to the controls, and then also the ground balance itself.
And well, that's also the reason why it's important. It's becoming more and more important to have the machines, the coils tuned to the machines. And I don't think this is as big of a problem. It wasn't as big of a deal 10 years ago, because we didn't really understand or didn't really thought about when they produced the coils in the machines. They were produced separately. As long as the coil passed its inspection, as far as what it was supposed to do, the parameters, they would take those coils and then put them in boxes with machines. I didn't realize this was a big effect until I realized that it was between, at the time, I think it was 78 to 91% tuned, like that, where it was just kind of thrown in there, until we got our machine and it's tuned like 99%. I mean, each coil is tuned to our detector. And each detector has its 3, like if you get a tri-pack, each coil has been matched to that detector. If you take like the 15-inch coil and switch it over to another metal detector, like a V3 to a V5, if that, you're not going to be perfect anymore. You may be 92%, 95%, whatever. It's just important to, knowing that your machine is tuned together is helping you. I mean, it's just making the machine run smoother. It may seem like a perfectionist thing, but, if you have room to adjust to make it better,
I've heard of people, I'm not going to name companies or anything.
Yeah.
I've heard that some companies will, for a price, will retune the coil to the detector itself to get the top
Right.
performance out of it. I talked to one guy, and he did that. He's had that done to a couple of water machines, and he said it really makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
As far as he's concerned. But he's a guy that's like me. He's been hunting for over 30 years, so and he's had a lot of machines, and he's pretty serious about it. But that's pretty cool that you can actually, because I from what I read and what I hear, most of the coils are about 75 to 85% tuned to the coil, to the machine on most brands.
And most people too. I mean, Craig, the lower end machines may not, they may be at that 75%, but because people are just starting out, it's not something that you may notice at all. I never did at first. I never even thought about it, to be honest with you. But it does make sense as you get, higher, get them tuned to it. But I tell people that buy a 7x9 coil from us, it's a small coil. There's not going to be as much of an adjustment room. I can actually go by serial numbers, know what the other coils are tuned, and I can find a coil that's like 95%, 97%. It's so close that you or I are probably not going to notice a 5% difference. I mean, it's just, you're just not going to be able to do it. Now, if you put it on an oscilloscope and all that, you're going to see the difference on the oscilloscope. And there's actually a way to use an oscilloscope without giving out any secrets. Where at Ferrite, you can tune a machine, or there's other, some coils have a way of adjusting them and stuff. What I think is neat is like Nell Coils or Coiltech. They make these aftermarket coils or SEF coils. These things are actually really, really good as far as tuning or whatever. It seems like they are. They're a lot more, well, like the Tornado coil. I'm just going off the top of my head. The Tornado coil for the AT Pro. I mean, definitely the VDI numbers don't match up, but man, you were getting some deep signals with that for the kind of metal detector it is. I mean, it's impressive. I know another one was the Whites. I used the SEF coils, the 6x8. I think I had the 5-inch SEF. Of course, I had all the Whites brand, that were made for the machine. And I guess I didn't think about this until I had the D2 coil go out of null. I still don't know exactly. I'm assuming that's the adjustment in the coil, or the coil went bad. I don't know. But it happened twice to me in 3.5 years. But Whites was always awesome about it. I said, I call them up, tell them the situation. They say, okay, send the machine to us. And, I ship it to them. And I think every single time I sent my machine to them, they fixed the problem. I think one time they replaced the coil, but they never charged me anything. Matter of fact, I think they gave me gifts too. I mean, like an extra lower detecting shaft or something. I thought that was really cool, Whites. That's why I've always liked the customer service on that. And I don't know what it is now. I'm assuming that they were keeping up the tradition. But they always treated me nice. And it wasn't because I just liked they did what they did. And I've had some people got, some bad service from other companies, but it's kind of like a crapshoot, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I've never had a problem out of any other detector company. If I had a problem, even the low end detectors, if I had a problem with one that I had, they were always, pretty good about at least getting it fixed for me or get me the part that I needed. Never had any real problem with it, other than people that some of the places that you call, it's hard to get service. Not the main detector companies, mostly dealers and stuff like that, or whatever. But they're not really service centers either. All they can do is what you should do is if you own a Mind Lab, call Mind Lab. If you own Whites, call Whites. And don't just get pissed and say, oh, I'm not using this anymore. It's a piece of junk, because it could be something little. Every machine, well, Craig, stuff happens. You could drop it, you can do this or crack something, or something can get dislodged in there after a shot to the front or back of the detector. It's technology. I mean, anything can happen. So it may not be anything that's their fault, and they usually fix them pretty easy. So just try to be careful with your machine. You invested money in it. Don't throw it in the back of your pickup truck and go down the road and slam on the brakes and have it smash the bulkhead of the truck and, wonder why your machine doesn't work, or throw it against a tree or whatever. And we've seen people do that, throw the detector against a tree and wonder why it doesn't work the next time. Well, hello.
Or the shaft breaks.
Yeah. Oh, God. You have a lot of... It's amazing, and it floors me when I see it. It makes me cringe. That one guy at that one hunt, Craig, you know what I'm talking about, throws his detector and then is screaming and yelling at it. Well, dude, you're the one that's swinging the thing. If it's not doing what it's supposed to do, maybe it might have been you, But we all get ticked off sometimes. But sit down and have a cup of coffee and relax a little bit, then go back to it. You get frustrated with yourself. I've done it. I've gotten frustrated with myself, and I usually sit down because I know I'm going to break something. I just want to, you're putting a building together, and you get something wrong. You might toss the hammer or throw the hammer, but you always pick it back up and continue on. So, well, maybe nobody does that. Maybe I'm just the one that throws hammers and stuff. I don't know. I've seen some crazy stuff, but the funny thing is, Craig, is that it wasn't scripted. The guy was just ticked. You know what I mean? He got aggravated.
Yeah, I've seen people lose it. Everybody's finding stuff and they're not, and or somebody finds something really good and they're not finding anything good, and oh my God, I've seen people. Well, you've dug enough stuff. Give somebody else a chance. And you're going, yeah,
it's
right.
like, what do you mean? Come on, dude. I made Craig feel pretty. He was like wondering what was going on at the one hunt we went to, and everybody seemed to be finding something decent. I found like a pistol bullet all weekend, and it wasn't for lack of trying. Believe me, guys, I was just pounding the ground trying to find something, and you're just going to have those days. So I come over and I'm sitting down on this. I think it was a water tank or something like that, and Craig's metal detector, and he turns around, "What are you doing?" I thought, "I'm just watching to see how it's done because apparently I forgot how to metal detect." And he's laughing, but I was laughing too. I mean, it's like, can you believe this? You found, 2 rings and this and that. And I'm like, I'm hunting 40 feet away from you, and I'm not finding nothing. And Craig's digging up nails, and nope, there's still a signal in here. So I was having fun watching Craig hunt. But it made me lighten up enough, and then I start hunting again, and that's the way it is. I mean, you're going to have those days.
That place was tough, and there wasn't a lot of signals, for like 150 people that were there.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Within half an hour, it was like it was done pretty much. Except we came back. When we came back the next day, I got back there and there wasn't anybody around, and I started popping stuff out of the ground again. It wasn't anything great.
Right.
A couple of silver plate spoons and stuff, but it was there was no EMI from all the other detectors, so I was getting depth again. But
right, and something, Craig, that I don't know if I can pull it up or not. I will definitely have this posted up to the Facebook page, Hardcore Metal Detecting, and you could switch it over if you want to, Craig. This was I'm not going to even say who made it. It's a report that was made by a major detector company. It explains and gives theory to different operations of generally all metal detectors, whether it's pulse or VLF, some of the terms that are used to explain certain controls and stuff like that. But in that report, the way they explained it, VLF and pulse, was very interesting, and I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember the exact term, but they essentially said throwing signal in a wide berth into the ground with a VLF and receiving the eddies or whatever you want to call it. This is very technical, but then it comes back and the metal detector can tell you what it is, where the pulse induction throws one frequency or one frequency in the ground and receives that same frequency. That's why it works in mineralized ground, and it works differently than a VL. Pulse and VLF are two different things. But it explained it very well, but it talked about the signal going into the ground, the way it comes out. And when we had that many people I think there was like 30 people hunting around that house, and everybody stopped finding. Craig, you didn't even find anything in that 20 minutes at all. If you did, you were just barely, you were very lucky, because once everybody left again, Craig started finding stuff, and Evan started finding stuff. They all came back because they saw people digging, and again, the dead space. And then, when you found that ring, Craig, and then and you were hunting, and I think it was Dwight Collin from New Age Goonies.
Yeah,
he came up along the road and up the hill, and
he saw me. I started hunting like where it was kind of thick, but it was just outside the yard, kind of going down the hill toward the road a little bit. And he started working on the other side, and there was a lot of aluminum, and then all of a sudden I got this brass tone, and I thought, man, that sounds really good. And I dug down, I don't know, 9 or 10 inches, I guess, and it was a big brass wedding band, like maybe from the 1850s, 1860s, something like that, probably.
But Dwight got a.
He was freaking out about it. I found a bunch of them. It wasn't that exciting to me, but
right,
it's pretty cool. But
didn't he find? He found a silver ring in the same spot, though, didn't he? Or he found something good. I remember that he was digging a little bit farther up into the bushes, where being thorough, and he found something else, and he was just stoked. And see, Craig and I didn't know Dwight or Brian Robinson. Really, we didn't know a person meet, physically. Even Dave Ettinger, we met him that day. Mark Hoover, I met a little while before that, but we got to meet up with all these guys. Evan, that was the first time that we had actually hunted with Evan, or, what have you.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to meet these guys, because then you could put names to faces, and you understand somehow you understand their hunting style. You watch them hunt, they're in the same realm or the same pack as you are, so to speak. There's a percentage of us that are just so into this, and we change our worlds around to do metal detecting, to go out metal detecting for the hobby. We travel, we do whatever we can to be more involved. We enjoy it. And it was nice to find those kind of people, because like Dwight, I mean, you're not going to find anybody with more energy than Dwight, man. That guy's bouncing off the walls. He's so into metal detecting. And, Evan, he's thorough. I mean, he's going to these places. He doesn't care if he's hunted it 20 times. He's going to it anyways. Or Bill Marsh, or, the other guys on the chat here. I love to see that kind of passion. And, you want to surround yourself with those kind of people, because it keeps metal detecting even, it makes it even more fun. I love hunting in groups. I call Mike Miller up and Dave, or Mark Hoover up every time I find a spot. I don't even know if it's going to produce anything, but I'll call them and say, hey, I don't know what this site's going to do, but come on over if you want to, if you can. And those guys, every single time, man, they're right over here. And we might not find nothing. We might find a bunch of stuff, but we have a hell of a lot of fun. And, it's one of the few hobbies you can involve other people rather easily. It doesn't bother you, or I don't think it bothers a lot of people hunting in these bigger groups. I think it's a lot of fun myself. But you don't find that so much in other hobbies, really. They're more solitary or more like small group, I would think. Artifact hunting. I mean, you're not out there with 50 people, or 100 people. It would definitely be kind of crazy. I think
the group hunts have grown over the years. Back in the old days, they were basically planted hunts. Now that people, you see it in England all the time now that, people pay money every weekend to go to rallies.
Right.
I've seen rallies over there. There was, some of the bigger ones are like 2,000 people hunting.
Right.
That's a lot of people metal detecting,
Oh yeah, my first one I went to was Detectapalooza up in Chicago, and I think I know Josh Kimmel was there, Chicago Ron, Chuck Smalley was there, Reese, and oh my God, there were Tommy Decker from Detecting Chicago and Beyond was there. I got to meet all these guys. I mean, it was pretty cool. We went up to Chicago Ron's place and everything, and did a radio show up there for Detecting Lifestyle, which you're showing your age if you remember that. It was it was one of the first radio shows I remember, and I really enjoyed listening to it. A lot of people did about metal detecting and stuff, and that really just it lit a fire under me. I wanted to be more involved. I mean, it simply for the fact is I could, make some friends, learn more, and have a great time. That's what it's all about. Now it's progressed so much because, well, you have the CWPPO, you have Digging in Virginia, you have what is it, the one up in the one that Brandon talks about, Penguin? No, wait a minute. I don't know. There's so many hunts, but it's really cool. I mean, we don't hear about them. That's what really gets me. Like the first CWPPO, we didn't even hear about it because we didn't see it on Facebook or whatever. We never got, the message. Now it's a little bit better. Now the word spreads faster, and some hunts cost you money to go hunt. Some don't. Some you keep the relics. You find some you don't, but you're always pretty much made aware of this before you even commit. So, me myself, I don't care. If I can't keep the stuff, I really don't care. I just want to find it. I want to get a picture of it. I want to video it or whatever. That's good enough for me if I can have a chance to hunt a site, Now whether, and some of these hunts cost, a pretty good amount of money. Other ones don't. You just kind of make your choice on that part of it. But just for the chance to hunt with people. I think the one digging in Virginia, the DIV I went to, I think there was 400 hunters or something like that, 435. I was a huge. They actually extended the hunt and lowered the price and stuff, and we had a blast. I mean, 3-day hunt. People were beat after that thing, man. We were so wore out, but we had fun, and that's the trip I came up to see you, Craig. I think right after that, came up and saw you and hunted with you and, a few other people there up there, but it was it's something I'll always remember. I remember every single hunt, because of course you take video and pictures and all that stuff too, but you make a lot of good friends, and that's the key to it all.
I saw one today on Aqua Chigger's channel, and they had a Garrett hunt, and it was a 3-day hunt, and it was either $1,700 or $1,800.
Right.
But you got one of the things, you got a whole AT Max package, and they had all these seminars on how to set up your machine, how to hunt, how to find sites. They had a whole bunch of Garrett team people there, Nugget Noggin.
Oh yeah,
Aqua Chigger, KG and Ringy, was it Jocelyn? So anyway, they had this hunt in the field, and I guess they had a couple of hunts, but this one, it was a relic hunt. They had a cannonball buried in the field. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, they had like tokens for prizes, and they had some really good plates, belt buckles and stuff, and all kinds of really cool coins and artifacts. It was pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah.
But they Aqua Chigger's pretty wild. He doesn't want to hide the stuff in the ground. He wants to do something different. So he finds this tree, and it's got like this little hollow in it. He just sits this big old bullet right on the edge of the hollow, so you can see it if you look. And so then he had this token on a log right up against the bank of this creek. And if you're walking along and looked over, you'd see it. See it from across the creek, actually.
Right.
But anyway, he was hovering around watching, and he's like, "Oh, will he get it? Will he get it?"
Yeah,
He missed it, So then he's sitting there talking to somebody, and then he starts walking away, and this guy walks up and says, "Oh man," he goes, "You're the Aqua Chigger," and they start talking, and he goes, "It's the funniest thing." He goes, "It's the weirdest thing." He goes, "I was down digging the target, and I get back up, and I look, and I see this Civil War bullet right in the hollow of this tree, just sitting there."
Yep.
So anyway, Aqua Chigger like tumbles over laughing, and the guy goes, "Oh, you did it, didn't you?" And he goes, "Yeah."
Yeah, it blows my mind. That's funny.
So he goes, "You got to look." He goes, "This is my section, So I did it out of the box, So you better start looking everywhere."
Yeah, no doubt.
But I thought that was pretty funny, you know.
Well, it does. When you think about it, what he was doing was helping them anyway, because it's making them eventually keep their eyes open from now on. Even on their own. He
Yeah.
messed with them, but it was a good kind of messing. When I go to these hunts or any of these activities, even like the pre-hunts, when we were up there at that the CWPO2 when I was hunting with Bill Marsh and you and Mike Miller and Mark Hoover and Rusty Fawcett and all those guys, before the CWPO the year before or 2 years before, I can't remember. But anyways, we had a great time, and we were so beat after just doing that couple of days of hunting. Then we went to the actual hunt itself. And we just kept on, going and going. We were so exhausted at the end, but man, I don't know. I get wound up, man. I get around, a bunch of people that are like-minded, man. It's like, you kind of let loose. We're different. We do different stuff in our lives, but this part of our life is, involving a lot of people. So it's kind of cool, and it's really cool to, well, you should always support, everybody, in the hobby. If they're doing something good, tell them. Like their stuff, like their videos, whatever. Let them know that you're at least watching them, and you like what they're doing. I mean, it's a good little motivator. You don't know what some of these guys go into. Craig, we've seen people that go from just enjoying the hobby, having fun on the weekends, to really going all out. I even saw mention on here tonight, and I'm trying to remember who it was. He was asking, he was thinking about starting to make videos and stuff. I think it was Robert. Was talking about that, and they're talking about what programs they use and stuff like that to edit their edit their videos and stuff. What they're doing, and that opens up another door. He might really enjoy making videos, and you don't know what he's going to come up with, because it's going to be something new. It's going to be his way. So and it may be something awesome. You never know. But that's half the fun of watching all the videos too. Yeah, you have your ones that are not so great, but people are trying, and it's actually leading them into other opportunities, we'll say, and you can expand the hobby for yourself and others too, really, when you think about it. So yeah, I mean, be supportive of each other, and most of the time we are. I don't see, Craig, I know you're a real stickler on it. So is several of the guys on here too, about liking stuff or commenting on different Facebook pages and stuff like that, because you get notifications, Ohio Relic Hunter, made a comment here or whatever. You go over and look at it, and so it's kind of cool. You're showing support and you're helping people out, and it's gonna come back to you. They're gonna help you out, somehow, some way, maybe information, knowledge, or just being supportive. So it's a good hobby that way. I think, anyways. And my wife was telling me she got in on Thursday night, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're still doing the show?" And some of our shows run. I mean, we just don't even. I literally didn't realize it until like 10:30 or 10 or 10:30, whatever it was. I think the show before that went long. We just lose track of time. To us, it's been a half an hour, and it's really been 2 hours. So, we don't mean to go over, and I hope obviously you guys stick around, so you must like, what we're talking about, and I'm glad about that, but we don't mean to do that. And I think some of the other shows do the same thing. I think, what was it, Relic Radio, they probably run over too. They've run over several times. You just get into these topics, and you just lose track. And that's a good thing. We always say that when you do that, it's a good show, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, we kind of got, well, our show is kind of no format anyways, but we kind of touched on a lot of different information here, and some of it's kind of deep. That's a good thing. I mean, if anything else, it's going to make you go and look up some of this stuff, some of you newer people out there, and, ask questions. So these guys will help, we'll help, and if it's something you're interested in, you want to be good at what you do, what the hobby you do. You want to be, you want to be good at it. You want to exceed or progress in a hobby or whatever, whether it's, I don't care if it's stamp collecting or, I don't know, photography or whatever. You always want to get better at it if you really like the hobby. So there's usually just information from individuals can help you out a lot, at least steer you in the right direction. So I know with me that's the way it's been, and Craig, I think for you too. Uh, if you had told me 2.5 years ago we would be doing a podcast radio show, I told you were crazy because Craig and I were talking about this. Literally, the first show we had, I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my life. I mean, Craig knew.
Yeah.
I was, and
I've done, I started, I think I did a test show for the Addicting Lifestyle before they even did, a real show.
Oh, yeah.
And I did, I don't know, 4 or 5 shows on Dave McMahon's,
Dennis O'Connor,
Lifestyle. And I did one with Tim Glick, and I think I did another one with Tim Glick on Josh's.
Josh Kimmel,
too.
Beyond Sight and Sound.
Yeah. And it was, I enjoyed doing it. It was just kind of fun, and I don't have any problem talking and stuff. I don't get nervous or anything, but as long as I know what to talk about or can figure out something to talk about. When you get nervous is when you don't know what to say.
Well, with us, it was, Craig, really, we've always done our show. It's been, there's been times, guys, where 10 minutes before the show, we decide what we're going to talk about. We're not ones to plan, to whatever, have a set way of doing a show. We went into this thing with, what we like, as far as metal detecting, different topics, even topics we don't know a lot about that we'd ask a listener for. That's what it's all about. A lot of times we're off the cuff. We have no idea where the show's going to lead us. It's a path that it takes on its own, and most of the time it seems like it's really good. Other times it gets stale a little bit, and then it'll come back. But the first show I did, I don't know why. Well, I think I know why, because hey, I'm pushing the go button. It's on me. And I let it get to my head a little bit as far as I froze up a little bit. I was having a hard time. Craig handled it, fine. He always does. He's a good public speaker and stuff. I'm not. I get in front of a crowd of people, and man, it's just a, I don't know, mental thing. I don't know what it is. But
now we can't shut you up.
Yeah, now I just talk all the time, and you guys tell me, shut up, dude, shut up. Well, you get comfortable with it. We could do, I told Craig, I said, I look back, and, I actually have copies of these shows and stuff, and I missed out on, I actually had, I think it was 1,000 Mics. We had so many shows with them, but a lot of them were broken up. We had a big problem with connection. Everybody was. It was, you couldn't keep connected and this and that, but and they went out. I don't think they're even in business anymore, or their content is. And so we lost a lot of our shows from then. But Mixler, I think, well, they may be out too, but I know they're on there. But I know I got our archive shows, and I thought about putting those back up, just because it was a learning experience. We learned as we go. Just like with Robert talking about making movies, man, you just take that first step. Either you're going to like it or you're not. If it interests you, if it keeps your attention, and you want to do something with it, you can. I've never had a problem with trying
6
things.
Years ago, and there wasn't a whole lot of information on how to do it, like it is now. And none of the cameras were anything like what they are now, especially on the cell phones and stuff.
Yep.
So, everything's changed. The resolution of the YouTube channel, of the stuff, it's a lot easier to upload and download now.
Right.
You got a lot better editing stuff. I do everything on my iPhone. Sometimes I do it on my iPad Pro, but I can transfer back and forth the videos and photos, but it just makes it so much easier. And then I just edit usually on iMovie. Sometimes I used Capture. I don't know if that's still supported by Google or not.
I used to use Live. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. There's a couple other ones, but I think iMovie works, pretty well. It's
if you're a Mac user, you use iMovie. If you're a PC person, or whatever, PC computer, or whatever, you use Live Movie Maker. I think that's still up and running. Whatever, it's still an app. They may have changed it a little bit. I tell you, I mean, I didn't have very much problem with Live Movie Maker. Some of my first videos were done with that. Then I bought a MacBook Pro and switched up to iMovie. They're in a lot of ways they're the same, but you know, if you go to like Best Buy or whatever and buy one of the like Vegas Movie Maker, I don't even know if that's around, but I mean, there's a lot of different ones. Some of them get very, very technical. I mean, I would say start off with, you know,
what's that one?
There's some hellacious.
The top, it's real expensive. That it's not like Photoshop. It's something else.
Yeah, I don't even know. I
can't remember what it is, but you know that thing. God, it takes you. You know, have to watch a million tutorials to get that thing.
Well, even starting up these forums and Facebook pages and websites, and you know, I've had to be. I was obviously directly involved in a lot of this stuff. I mean, thank God for my daughter and my son-in-law, because these two are, I mean, they're programmers and coders, and they really know from the basics and really how to do all this new. There's new systems coming out for websites and stuff. It's going to blow your mind, some of this stuff that's coming up through here, and they're in the know of it. I mean, they're in the thick of it right now, and have been. You know, this can be very difficult, or you can find the stuff that works easily, so you can get your mind wrapped around how these programs are working and stuff, and then progress into these more intricate kind of programming things. It'll give you a starting point with the easier ones, but it's really not that difficult. You watch YouTube has been really good for me, anyways, as far as you know, doing this kind of stuff. There's a lot of information.
Well, look at all the stuff that's come out because of people doing these things. You got those handheld gimbals and stuff, and some of them are, you know, really do some really cool stuff. They even have motors in them and stuff now.
Right. Well, yeah,
so
that's
they can pan, you know, and you got 360 and panoramic stuff.
Tracking, the tracking part of it, where it identifies you, keeps an eye on you. Some of this stuff, I tried to buy one of those. Surfers use them when they go out there and they want to film. They put it on a tripod and it follows them. And you know, back when I looked at them, the technology had just kind of come out, and those things were crazy expensive. But now the stuff, I mean, it's not so salty. You can, you know, a regular guys like us can actually afford them, you know. And you know, it's hard in this hobby because there's so much you want to do. If you start getting into this, you want to get a better camera, a better, you know, action cam, this and that. And sometimes you can't. I mean, they can be very high, but sometimes you could find something that's not so expensive that does the particular kind of footage that you want to do really good. It may not do the other stuff that the other people are using it for, like parachuting or riding mountain bikes, whatever, but you can find technology that's in a price range that you can afford that will do the kind of video that you want to do. So don't feel like you have to buy $1 million camera or action cam to shoot some of this stuff. Yeah, if you want to go with the Cinematonic or whatever, the accuracy, the stableness and everything, yeah, you're going to have to pay some money for that or get things that will help you with it. But essentially, I shot a lot of my videos with a flip camcorder, and they hadn't made these in a while, not the model I was using. And I went into a Muvi, M-U-V-I, which was like $100 camcorder, but it had a lot of accessories, clamps, this and that and the other thing. So it didn't cost me a ton of money. I did most of my stuff through editing, and my videos aren't perfect by any means. I mean, you know, I have, you know, stabilization things and everything else going on, but they're real, and that's the way a lot of us do them. I mean, it's just what we shoot, and it's keeping it real, keeping it straight up. And, you know, I like the videos. I mean, you know, as you get better at it, you buy better equipment, you buy better technology as far as editing, and you grow into what you want to make. And you find out what people enjoy and you try to do it better. You know, it's just like anything else. But all these things that stem off of metal detecting, all these other sub-hobbies, you know, for you, it's going to keep on going. You just have to keep your eyes open. And a lot of the guys out here have other hobbies they do. Like, you know, I rant and rave about Mark Hoover and his photography skills. The guy really does shoot some good footage, or, you know, with cameras and stuff. I couldn't do that. I mean, he has a knack for it, a talent for it. And, you know, I I may never get to that point, but I strive to be that good. We help each other out. We don't even know it. So,
yeah, you can get better. You can get better at it.
Yeah.
I've gotten in more into, trying to set up the scene a little bit better. And, when I do photos for Instagram and stuff, I try to get the best shot,
Angles and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't really notice stuff like that because I'm not really visual, but I started, saying I got to make these, and then when I go back and look at it, I go, that doesn't look so good, So, I was like, I got to set these shots up better, But the lighting really makes a difference, I think. It's one of the most important things.
Yeah, and I saw something on the chat, and I got to say this. O'Hara, Connor, you are right. I did go back to the dark side. What he's talking about, he doesn't hear me vaping. He heard the lighter light up, and I'm got cold or allergies or something about 3 months ago, and it was and a lot of people are getting it down here in Florida. It's like not a constant, but a cough. And I actually talked to 3 people today down in Tampa that I heard them coughing, and they said, God, I can't get rid of this. I've gone to the doctor. I've gone, it's not the flu. It's not a virus. It's not. And these people are taking steroids and everything else. Mine let off for whatever reason. I couldn't vape. I couldn't smoke. I couldn't do anything like that, or I would just cough my brains out. And I was coughing regardless of whether I did it or not. And I'm pretty sure that we've had, and I really am blaming it on the hurricane that we had down here. The amount of tree damage, the amount of wind. These trees haven't, at least in my area, haven't seen that type of wind that I know of in 20 years. I mean, some wind, but we're talking 100 mile an hour, 75 to 100 mile an hour sustained winds over time, over a 24-hour time period. And a lot of trees, a lot of stuff got stirred up. These old trees broke. They had hollow centers. There's molds and everything else. This all, I think, it's affected a lot of people down here. It's nothing that's I hope it's not life-threatening. I've gotten over it. It took me 3 months, and I couldn't vape. And I just, I wanted that nicotine, and I grabbed me a cigarette at the bar, and, I've been cutting back, way back, and I'm actually starting to vape again. I'm able to start vaping. That was what was weird, Craig. I could smoke a cigarette and not cough anymore after about 3 months. But, you think being off of cigarettes and nicotine that long, I would have, it'd kind of go away. But the vaping I could not go to up until about 2 weeks ago. And I'm trying to wean myself off the cigarettes. But yeah, I backslid, but it was my fault. But hey, stuff happens. We're going to get off these cigarettes. I can't, to be honest with you, Craig, I can't stand it. I've even gone from smoking the cigars or whatever, menthol and full flavor, just trying to make it so doggone nasty that I have to go back to vaping. I really do. Pauline laughs at me, but she didn't get it like this. I don't know what the heck I got into. I'm out in the woods. I'm out here and there. And I also was right here the whole time where she was at a shelter at the VFW, running that. I was right here in the thick of it. And I know that there's all kinds of pollen and I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, I think they're going to start coming out and start saying something because there's a lot of these older people that are having a lot of problems. And it hasn't been something that's happened in the past like that. Not in the recent past anyways. So I think that hurricane stirred it up.
When I lived in Alexandria, I used to get allergies every spring from the maple and the oak trees. Mm-hmm. And my eyes would just, practically almost swell up and coughing and sneezing and stuff. But it's funny, up here in the valley, there's no maple trees and there's no oak trees.
Right.
So I don't have any. I'm not having that. When I went back, I had to go back 2 weekends ago. I went back and cut the grass.
Right.
Down in Alexandria, and as soon as I thought, God, my eyes are burning. Mm-hmm. I looked over across the street, and there's all these little red things all over this maple tree, and I said, oh my God. I remember
Yeah.
when I was a kid, we had like 8 maple trees surrounding our house, and over the years they all rotted,
Right.
had to be taken down. But a lot of the communities nowadays, they won't allow oaks or maples to be transplanted in.
Right. It's horrible down here with these water oaks. Pauline, born and raised here, 10 generations, whatever, and never had a problem with the oaks. We get a lot of oak pollen. It comes off in big yellow, whatever. It's nasty looking.
Yeah.
But then we have, I noticed this year, our season for oaks losing their leaves is different, kind of than other places. Like you guys lose yours like October, they start turning, and they're off by what, November, I guess, or something like that, December, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Ours never shed leaves until like February, March. I mean, we had actually new growth back in when the hurricane hit, and the acorns are flying because of the wind. It sounded like bullets hitting the side of the trailer.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! I did. I scared that was a. I've been through several hurricanes. That one, when the entire mobile home started vibrating, and I'm like, I did make the wrong decision here. I'm fixing to die. You know, you start thinking that after a while when it doesn't quit. And I knew I've been in hurricanes where the wind, every time you think it's going to slow down, it just gets worse and worse and worse. But this was it was a different experience. It was adrenaline, I tell you that much. But, you know, I made some live footage and stuff, and I joke around about it. But, yeah, you start worrying when you start feeling that, you know, like something's going to blow apart, you know. And when it took out these trees and these acorns come off, it's like now we have what we call oak worms and oak caterpillars, or one's real fuzzy, and if it lands on you and you go to hit it, they're real hairy. It'll actually irritate your skin and everything like that. The oak worms don't really do anything. They're annoying, but they actually come out of the trees on like a cobweb. That's how they lower themselves to the ground. This year I saw one oak worm. I never did see one of the fuzzy ones, which are the bad ones that make cocoons everywhere. So obviously it wiped those out. I haven't seen. I'm seeing a lot of blind mosquitoes, which I can't even explain what that. It's not a mosquito, but it's a blind mosquito. I don't know how to put it. Those haven't been as bad this year either. That wind took out so much and blew so much of the, I don't know, the eggs or however they grow, blew them out of the trees. So, you know, we're not having those kind of things, but what else did it stir up? And like our river, the kelp and stuff like that's in the river, they were actually saying last year that it was causing, it's stagnant, it's for whatever you call it, Craig, rotting, but it wasn't getting washed out of the river because the water levels were so low. When that hurricane, it busted all that loose. It solved the problem because our river rose. They had to open up the dam, and people had water all the way up, you know, like 30 feet farther up into their property than they're used to having because of opening up the dam and everything from all the water. So it washed up a lot of stuff, too. So it's hard to tell. I mean, I saw on here where Ohio Rail kind of said they have the same thing going on up in Ohio with this cough. You know, it could be anything. But we all, you know, it's been a kind of a weird season this past year. You guys are getting snow at weird times. Temperatures are rising real high for the time of the year.
We had 87 yesterday here, and today was 84.
Yep.
But last week it was, I think, 28 at night and maybe 44 during the day.
Right.
We'd had high winds, 50-mile-an-hour winds. We had one back in January where it's like, I think it was like 70, 75 miles an hour.
Right.
We had like 3 big gusts that just shook the house. It's kind of scary, when that happens.
We're gonna absolutely get pounded tomorrow. I know that.
I can imagine what a hurricane feels like.
There's no feeling, buddy. You start feeling that barometric pressure. You can feel the pressure in your head sometimes, depending on where you're at during it. But you know what? We got hit with a Cat 2 right in my area. Orlando didn't get hit half as hard as we thought they would. We never caught the back side of it. I think that's where Orlando got hit a little harder. We never caught the back side of it. So I hit I waited around for it because the first part went through, then the eye went over, or what was left of the eye, and then we never got the backside of the storm, which was even worse. So yeah, we're pretty lucky here. It did a huge amount of damage tree-wise and everything else, but just like tomorrow, it's supposed to be. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it's supposed to be hellacious thunderstorms tomorrow. But then on next week, we're going to drop down into the upper 40s again. And we're in, it's going to be great hunting weather, brother, because that's not normal. I mean, we have not had a normal, it's been colder than normal most of the time in Florida this year compared to past years. It just, I don't know, they say global warming. It's not global warming. I think it's globally freeze your butt off down here is what it is. And we pay such
climate changing back to the ice age is what it's doing.
It's just a cycle, just a cycle. But yeah, I mean, I paid my sunshine tax, doggone it, and I want it. But we're going to be back into the upper 40s and low 50s next week, I guess. That's what they were saying anyway. We'll see how it works out. But yeah, we're about 940. And we've gone over again. But, yeah, we'll probably wrap it up for tonight, guys. And thanks for listening. We're on every Thursday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. You can catch us on, the Facebook pages for Blissful American Hardcore Metal Detecting, our YouTube channels, of course, our forum and stuff like that. And we're glad you listen. Make sure you like and follow not only our show, but the other shows, too. If you like them, let them know it, like and follow them. You get when you follow the shows, you'll get emails to let you know when a show's starting up. I don't do anything other than that. I don't know what Spreaker does. If that ever gets annoying too, let me know, guys. I mean, I think that's all they're doing is notifying you. If they're doing anything else, like really pushing other stuff on you, we'll find another way to get you guys information. Whether you're new to the show or not, it doesn't really matter. If you follow us, we don't want you to be bothered. We just want to let you know when we're going to be on. And that's pretty much the way it is with the other shows. When you start up, it automatically tells people by Facebook, by whatever, that we're going to be there. So, don't let that be a problem. If it is, well, by golly, I'll try to fix it if I can. You know how all these YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff is doing. They always hitting us with all these notifications. So, Craig, I've been getting pounded so badly with these friend request things. Where the fake ones, 50 to 60 a day at least. It's crazy. And these people are not into the hobby. They're not into the, they're just scammers.
When somebody's asked me to add this friend, I delete both of them.
Yeah, I don't.
I delete the guy that
right.
He's part of the deal. It's like, it's kind of like this Facebook fiasco where the data's gone. They sold the data everywhere.
Right.
They're doing the same thing. They're mining all your friends and sending whoever's. Because I see a bunch of metal detectors on some of these.
It pisses me off. It really does. It's.
Yeah, and you think it's legit, but now if it doesn't have a Facebook profile picture,
right?
If it's just blank. Boom, there's spam. I don't care.
And if you see one or two or three friends, it's same thing.
I'm getting sick of it. I'm almost, I don't know. I use Facebook so much. I've been kind of like slowing down a bit on it, using some other platforms.
Yeah, I've been doing it too.
But I hear there's people that are deleting it and they're just dumping it. Like I hear a good 10 to 15% of people are, dumping Facebook.
A good friend of mine did. Mike Miller. A lot of you guys do. He's had enough with Facebook, so he got off there. He's still on, the internet and stuff. He still looks around, but he's not actively. And I've heard some of you guys doing the same thing because it's becoming. You don't know what the heck. I mean, if I ever delete one of you, I'm not going to obviously delete one of you guys.
I didn't know they were, they were actually. Going that far where they were actually selling their data to, just basically to the highest bidder.
Right.
Well, and then you watch these hearings, with Zuckerberg, some of these senators all have, they want Facebook to do good because they got their stock. They had a list of all the people, in the Congress and the Senate that had stock in Facebook.
I got my theory on this, Craig, too, with this problem about the friend request or suggesting friends, whatever, and it says ignore or accept. think about this for a minute. They're fixing to make some serious changes on Facebook. I'm sure that they're getting hounded for it obviously by the newscasts and stuff. I mean, these people, I think what they're doing is getting as many friends as they can, or likes, or whatever you want to call it, because when they do change it, they'll already have them in their roster, so to speak, and they will be legal to pursue sending notifications to people because they have friended them. You get what I'm saying? And when they change, that's why they're hitting us so hard for the last 2 months at least. I've been getting pounded. And, sometimes I got one guy, why'd you delete me as a friend, or why'd you unfriend me? And I said, well, I didn't mean to. But, when you have 50 or 60 on there, it's like you lose track of, you know what I mean? You're clicking ignore, and I might have hit the button by accident. I try to look over for a profile picture, but that's not always for sure. And these are people that have, like, you have one mutual friend. I'm like, okay, obviously they may be into metal detecting. I try to click over there to see if they have any kind of metal detecting, whatever, or something in the hobbies, and then I'll accept or deny or whatever, delete. But, it's possible, and I'm sure it's happened to several people already, that you go through there and you delete somebody you didn't want to. So understand that I did, just message me or whatever, somehow email me, whatever. I'll put you back on there. I don't think I've done it to anybody recently, but it just gets so consuming. And then all the email notifications, and it's like, God, they're just pounding us. And maybe not all of you are having this problem. I'm glad you're not, because it's very aggravating when you're trying to keep stuff legitimate and you're having all this outside friends that you don't even, they're bimbettes or whatever they're doing, the craziness of it all, and not legitimately into hobbies like metal detecting, bottle hunting, arrowhead hunting, or whatever else. So I wanted to say that, Craig, because it's been getting, I know for you it's been getting crazy too. So I think Bill was telling me he was having some of the same problems too, and I'm sure that Mark Hoover is, and Mike Miller was too. Mike was pissed. He says, God, I don't even know who these people are. And he doesn't have like a Facebook page where he's, a group or anything like that. He belongs to several. And I don't know whether we're getting slammed through them. We're probably slamming each other because of our friends list. I don't know.
The page is doing fine. Actually, I got a lot of traffic on it now. And, I'm not having any problems on that, but it's just personal stuff.
Well, that's what
every day. I have this whole list, and then I got all these ads that I never used to see an ad, but maybe once or twice a month at the most.
Right.
Now I'm getting almost as many ads as I'm getting bimbos trying to, be friend of me.
Yeah. That's your Craig Talley groupie fan club, brother.
Yeah, right.
But you're right though. It's on our personal pages. It's not on like hardcore metal detecting. Not really. I mean, it seems to be worse on on everybody's personal Facebook page. And I went through my personal Facebook page, but how do you go through 3,100 people? I mean, obviously I can go down through there and I see your guys' avatars, and okay, well, I know this one's Jaron, this one's Ohio Relic Hunter, blah, 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 you're going down, but you start seeing double after a while. You're just, it's too over whatever, it's overcoming you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm getting close to, I don't know, 2,600, 2,700 friends or something, and probably 100, maybe 200 people I really know, and then the rest are all metal detectorists mostly.
Yeah, and I don't mind those. And the other countries get me too. And, because you can't read their, I mean, no offense, I can't read Bulgarian, I can't read German, but they have a translate thing on there. But if I see photos and I look at a few things, if they're into metal detecting, I'll friend them. We have, I'm sure everybody does from, South America and Germany and wherever they like metal detecting. I'm sure they, friend you or whatever. It's really hard to distinguish at a reasonable amount of time when you're dealing with that many people, who's who. And,
yeah,
I just wanted to apologize for that. If I'd done that to anybody, I mean, we're not meaning to do that. So, they'll figure it out.
When you thought somebody was a bimbo and they weren't?
Well, I think what I was doing is I was clicking down and I got pissed. I'm like, good God, I mean, how many of these things do I have to go through? Like, delete, 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 delete. And I hit one, and I think I know it was his. And, by the time you do it, it's pretty much, you're continuing down the list. And then he messaged me on, emailed me. And I'm like, dude, and he was kind of pissed at me, but I mean, I didn't do it on purpose now. If I didn't like you, I'd tell you. I'm that way. If I got something to say to you, I'm going to say it. And whether you punch me in the nose or you shake my hand, oh well. I mean, that's a good thing one way or the other. But I'm going to be honest with you. And he thought it was malicious, and it wasn't. I mean, I had to explain myself. He understood after that, and everything was cool. But I'm like, dude, you don't understand. All the advertisements and everything, the emails. I mean, if I don't get 400 notifications a week through eBay and Facebook and everything else on my
God.
at least.
I get Amazon too.
Jeez, they just we saw you looked at this or you watched this, I don't know, 3 years ago. Yeah, are you still interested? Well, no. If I was going to be interested, I would have bought it already. Idiots, I know they're computer generated, so I call them idiots. But any rate, so I just wanted to say that. But we'll get off of here now. I'll leave you guys be until Thursday night, and we may have some more information about a few other things that we were kind of touched on tonight. And, we'll kind of keep you informed on that. We thank you guys for listening and being on chat. And, tell a friend about us because we're, we really don't advertise. It's through you guys, and you guys are the ones that make it happen. So we'll talk to you on Thursday night. You guys get out there, keep digging, and God bless.